The threat of AI is adversely affecting many businesses, but not in the way that you think. Let me explain. What is AI to the mind? Because AI out there externally, right? Artificial intelligence, it's, changing the world, it's intelligent. Yet, what is AI to the mind and how does it affect the business mind? Let me explain. So AI is effectively a placeholder or is another version of a survival threat. Yesteryear, we had saber-toothed tigers, and then we had other threats, right? So AI is just today's threat, external threat. In the hero's journey, they call it an external threat, okay? Not actually external threat. It's an external event that takes place, okay? And if that external event is perceived as a survival threat, then what does it do internally? It leads to the internal happening. What that survival threat will do is it will trigger the mind to go into fight or flight or a form of survival. Now, the key thing to understand here is the reason that AI will adversely affect businesses is not because of AI itself. It's because of what it will do within the being, those people that run businesses. It sends the mind into fight or flight. It sends it into survival state of being. And the number one thing that it does is, which I teach my clients, is it hijacks your attention. What do I mean by that? The mind creates reality as a result of where you place your attention. And AI, having spoken to many business owners today, has hijacked their attention. Unconsciously, particularly. In my work, when I work with entrepreneurs, this is called conscious focus versus unconscious focus. Ideally, as a business, what you want to do, you want to place your attention consciously on the vision. We call it the creative orientation. Yet, unbeknown to many business owners, the fear that's been riled up by AI sends their mind into unconscious focus. What is unconscious focus? It's effectively survival, self-preservation. What you put into the mind is what you get out. Now, my job when I work with entrepreneurs, business owners, companies, is to diagnose what is happening unconsciously. Because there is an unconscious dynamic that has been triggered by, in this case, AI. But it could be something else. It could be economic factors out in the world. It could be competition. It doesn't matter. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to stick with AI. AI was the external threat. It leads to an internal trigger. That leads to the mind's attention being hijacked. That means that there is unconscious focus. That means that there is no longer the prerogative, is that the right word? The aim of the mind is no longer to create, is no longer to realize the vision. That's been hijacked. It's been hijacked unconsciously. Now it's in fight or flight. It's trying to protect itself. Now, as you know, how much good can come out of just trying to survive? Yes, in the short term, it's a good idea. If there is a genuine threat, a survival threat coming towards you, then you need to be able to handle it. But most of the conversations that I'm having, AI is leading to a perceived threat. Okay, not saying that AI is not going to change the landscape, but most of what's happening in business owners' minds is a concocted idea of what's happening, right? That is the byproduct of unconscious focus, okay? Therefore, their mind, the mind of their company, unbeknown to them, is now just trying to stay afloat, right? It's perceiving threats right, left, and center. But I'm here to tell you, history shows us that the minds that place their attention on what I call the creative orientation, creativity has shown us, right? Creativity will supersede any changes in the environment usually, right? And creativity, in my opinion, having worked with many entrepreneurs, is umpteen times more powerful than any threat in the environment. And obviously businesses, they are going to feel as though if the environment changes, if the economy changes, something changes out there, then they're not going to have the business they want. But I'm here to tell you, inventions, for example, show us human ingenuity has no bounds, right? But now the problem is, how do we go as a business owner? How do you go from having your attention hijacked and therefore your internal state of being on some level is just focused on survival? Now, how do you go from feeling threatened by AI to being able to build a business that ultimately supersedes the threat of AI? I'm glad you asked. Let's get into it. So remember, I am no expert. I'm not a world-class expert, a business coach. That's not what I am. I am just the architect. I am an expert in understanding how the mind works, okay? And I've seen it in my own life, and I've seen it with many clients, right? So let's go through a process now. I'm going to teach a process to you that if you find yourself feeling worried by AI, if you're scared that it's going to impact the performance of your business, you're not able to sleep at night, you are in a state of fear, you've been triggered into a survival state of being, the question is, would you like to supersede AI? Would you like to be able to create a business that is a reflection of your highest creativity, of your passion, and of what you love? If it is, yes, let's go through a process, which I take my clients through. Obviously, I'm giving you an overview. I'm not going to spend 1 or 2 hours here going through all the details. But if you find it interesting, there is a link and you can book a call with me, and I can help you to transcend AI with your mind. Okay, let's jump in. So, number one, AI is the threat, okay? In your mind, is just a survival threat. It leads to a trigger. The trigger is an internal state of being, okay? The mind has now taken its attention onto survival. Now, as long as the mind and the body are in a fight or flight state, animalistic state, you now need to find a way. Number one is this. You need to become aware of what the unconscious dynamic is. Because for everyone, AI will represent a different threat based upon their conditioning, their mind's conditioning, okay? For some people, it might be that they just don't feel safe because that's their old program. For some business owners, it might be that anything I do is never going to work, etc., right? We have to figure out what is the unconscious dynamic that's playing out for you in your mind when you consider AI. And what I would say to you in a simple way, write down all your thoughts and feelings and behaviors. If you write everything down, if you admit what you're thinking and feeling, even if it's scary, write it all down. And when you look at that page, it will start to paint a picture as to what is the dynamic that's playing out unconsciously, okay? Because most of the threat is perceived. It's worse in here than it is out there, usually. So now, assuming that you have your unconscious dynamic, which is clear, now we're going to move into neutralization, okay? This is where we learn to let go of the programs that have been triggered within the unconscious that see the world as a threat, okay? Because if we do not, what happens? You remain stuck in only trying to survive. There's no thriving happening. When we neutralize, one of the things we do is we let go of emotions. So often, if there is an emotion there, we have to let it go. So one of the processes that we teach is called EA, emotional acceptance. It's a process of letting go those feelings. Another one is thought acceptance, which is effectively letting go of the thoughts, okay? Now, imagine now, step 2, you have neutralized that threat in your being. Because within your inner being, you have to let go of the threat. Number 3, now that the body and the mind have calmed down, They're no longer, deer in the headlights, shall we say, deer in the headlights. Once we've done that, now the body's calmed down. Yeah? It's not in a state of stress. Now we place our attention onto who you are being. Now we want to cultivate a state of being that is akin to your creativity. So another way of saying it is, now we want to place your attention on the creative expression, in this case, your business, okay? And we want to keep it there. We want to keep your attention there. We do not need, unless we actually need AI to actually help with the business, then fine. But in most cases, you won't. We want to keep the mind's attention on the creative endeavor. Why? Because wherever you place your attention, your focus, it is what it's going to induce a state of being that is akin to that creative expression. And that means that you perceive in a way that is akin to your creative expression. You will have ideas, intuition that is akin to that creative expression, and your behaviors will be of service to the creative expression, not to the survival threat. Because remember what Einstein said. Einstein said, the level of consciousness at which a problem is created is not the same level of consciousness at which it is resolved. So what we're doing is we're going to a creative orientation that is higher or supersedes the problem of AI or the threat of AI. Because ultimately, there is an end goal here, and we want to realize that. That's what we want to do. But if you're in a state of fear, doubt, paralysis, frozenness, self-sabotage, procrastination, etc., which can happen, all those things can happen as a result of an external threat. We want to unhook from the threat. We want to calm you down. We want to bring your attention back and teach your mind. And this is a circular process. When I work with clients, I have to teach them to keep bringing their attention back. Because every single time your mind becomes hijacked by this perceived threat, we have to bring it back to the creative orientation. That's what we're here to do. So the mind creates as a result of where you place your attention, okay? And most of where we place our attention tends to be unconscious because the survival mind tends to win. Why? It's prehistoric. It doesn't give a shit about your creativity. It doesn't care about your business. What it cares about is you surviving, okay? And most of you surviving is not even out there. It's in here. Your identity, your sense of self as a business owner is going to be geared towards keeping yourself alive psychologically, not just physically. But that hinders your business, so we want to bring it back. Okay? That's an overview. Okay? I hope this has supported you. And ultimately, the thing that I want to leave you with is any external threat or perceived external threat in your business, it's only going to trigger in you your current sense of self. And according my view on evolution, the whole point of life is evolution. And therefore, the core of whatever the external threat is, the point of it is that you learn to overcome yourself. You're going to have to learn to overcome the aspect of yourself that continuously gets stuck in fight or flight, that continuously gets stuck in fear and survival. If you can, you will then rise up into higher states of consciousness, okay? And you will access higher levels of creativity. Just look around you. Look at your house. Look in the world. How many expressions of creativity are there, right? That is how powerful you are. But in order to access that power, you have to place your attention on the creative act of building something, not trying to survive, because that will only take you so far, okay? And most of that is psychological survival. I think that's it. That's all I want to share for today. And I hope this has served you once again. If this resonates, I'll provide a link. You can book a call with me. And yeah, we can take it from then. The purpose of the call would be, I will do a process called a conflict process, where I diagnose, I've got the experience, so I will talk to you, I'll ask you questions, and we'll diagnose what is the unconscious dynamic that's playing out in your business. We want to become aware of that. And I can tell you something, after hundreds of conversations in helping entrepreneurs with the conflict process, I can tell you that most people, because we do not, in this world, we do not pride ourselves on self-awareness, right? Not always. So therefore, people are often what they think is the problem unconsciously in relation to AI or any external threat in their business is usually not what they think it is. So we need to, with my experience, I need to help you to diagnose what's happening unconsciously. So ultimately, we can unhook from that, okay? Because ultimately, we want to help you to build your business, supersede this threat, and ultimately, be in that creative state of being, right? That is where the power lies. That's what it's about. But unfortunately, most business owners are putting their power, unbeknown to them, into AI, which ultimately is, I'm scared, I'm fearful, I'm scared. There you go. Singhasana, over and out. I look forward to hearing you on a call. Please do share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Over and out.